So, Jason, fairly recently in our episode 515, What is Entropy-Aware Guidance? We talked about this idea of entropy-aware guidance. I think you want to build on this idea, right?
Yeah.
And you threw a phrase at me, so I'm just going to throw it back at you. The thermodynamics of privacy.
The thermodynamics of privacy. Yeah, I could bury the lead and go on a whole tangent here about what it is, but let me get really to what this means.
Okay.
Remember, the first episode, 515, episode 515, was really all about let's put actual load limits on bridges.
Right.
Rather than saying strong bridge, weak bridge. What does that even mean? If you're driving a truck over a bridge, you need to know what the load limit of the bridge is. Okay? In security, we don't do that. We go strong, we go weak, and we go, rule of thumb. And I think that's, it really, to me, this is a continuation of the not all MFA is created equal story. Because MFA aware guidance.
Simple toggle, right? It's got MSA, it doesn't, it's binary, right? Or MFA, it doesn't, it's a binary, but it isn't a binary.
So this is a very long conversation in reality. And to me, we could continue to talk about MFA all day long. And I decided to stop doing that and start talking about entropy-aware guidance. In other words, you can actually put a load limit based on entropy calculated bits to every form of MFA. Okay? So that's what we were talking about.
Right.
This extension to the idea is now, all right, well, there's security controls, MFA as an example, but you can start to extend this to other things. So we had MFA-aware guidance, but what about privacy? So there's really two sets of books to keep when you're talking about privacy.
Okay.
One set of books is, all right, what's the number of clues that you are leaking whenever you are performing a task? For example, if I'm getting a loan online, there's a certain amount of information I have to give about myself.
Gotcha. Okay.
And those are the clues that are potentially leaked due to the communication that's going on between at least two parties. What happens if Eve is in the middle of Alice and Bob listening? Those are leaked clues, right? And so those can actually be measured in bits.
Okay.
Right? And so the best way to think about this is every single clue that you leak about yourself reduces the size of group you could potentially live in.
Right. Okay. So if I live in this city, now the total potential scope is this city. And then if I add something else, it gets further and it can get really small, right?
Which is exactly how browser fingerprints work.
Yeah.
Right. So in other words, a lot of people think, I'm anonymous, I'm online. And it's like, well, no, there's only a certain number of bits it takes before it's you.
Right. And in certain specific circumstances, even with a browser fingerprint, we could get down to the fact where there's an N value of 1.
Correct. And you and I have had a lot of podcasts about how Google is trying to solve this by having cohort definitions and never go less of an aggregate than that in order to maintain privacy. It's all about this arithmetic.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a known arithmetic, and it's not something that's new here on this podcast. What's a little bit new is this second set of books, which is, you have heard, Tim, of course, this idea of the right to be forgotten.
Yes. Right. Yeah, GDPR concept.
Okay.
The right to be forgotten.
Perfect. So what happens if we took something that's undeniably true, something that you can't negotiate, which is the amount of work it takes in order to delete a certain amount of data?
Okay. Okay.
Well, where have we seen this before? Proof of work consensus algorithms for cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
Okay. Well, proof of work is all about basically doing a whole lot of math, burning up electricity to solve problems, and then essentially the part of the proof is the deletion of the stuff that was not a solution.
Okay.
In order to get to the solution.
Okay.
That it's not the solution that's interesting. It's the amount of work it took to get to the solution. So proof of work is already used in other things. Right. So what happens if you think about privacy as a proof of work to delete data? You can actually, through the Landauer principle, right? That basically says that data, even no matter what the efficiency of the deletion technology is, the actual act of deleting data has a thermodynamic effect that is non-negotiable.
Okay.
So essentially, one of the ways you could measure how private is this is you could actually measure what is the thermodynamic effect of actually deleting the data.
And the smaller that thermodynamic effect, the more private it is.
Precisely. And there is a non-negotiable, non-fool-aroundable,
quantifiable,
and absolutely quantifiable, bigger, smaller.
So this might not be perfect. I think at a general trend level, it probably works very well. I don't know that you could do it to exactly isolate the degree of pragmatic privacy of every individual use case, right? Because among other things, different pieces of information are a different level of value. Where I went to high school and what my social security number are both pieces of information, but one of them is much more effective in targeting me than the other.
100%.
Right?
100%. It's very true. Not all clues are created equal.
Right.
Right. And so therefore, deleting one or the other, they're going to have similar amounts, but it doesn't have anything to do with the importance of what's been deleted.
Right.
I think what's more important, Tim, is the proof of deletion. In other words, think of the thermodynamic piece of this. Because when I was thinking about this concept, I was like, where is this most useful? It's definitely not useful in telling you, how private you got due to a deletion.
Okay.
A partial deletion, for example. Definitely not. But what it does give you is a receipt of deletion. The thermodynamic effect, the measured thermodynamic effect, becomes the receipt. It's no different than the work that was done to come up with the answer for a cryptographic algorithm, consensus algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
That is the receipt, the non-negotiable receipt that work was done to accomplish the consensus. In this case, it's a different concept, but using the same proof of work.
So the size of the receipt is going to be a function of the amount of private information that is, for want of a better word, spilled public.
Yeah, I think the danger is in connecting it to the type of information, like in aggregate. I think what you could do is to say, hey, if there's 3 clues, I want 3 receipts.
Okay.
And therefore, the receipt is for the discrete thing, not an ascribed value to the thing.
Okay.
So therefore, the amount of thermodynamic effect is less important than the existence of the thermodynamic effect. The mere existence of it can act as a receipt.
Sure.
For a discrete thing.
Right. If it was tagged to that clue.
Right. The color of my shoes versus the data that is a high-resolution iris image.
Right.
Very different thermodynamic effect, very different value of clue. But what I would say is if you separate the two, but then you have a receipt that both were deleted, then you know that both were deleted. That's what the value to you is in this idea.
Okay. So like pragmatically speaking, to work an idea like this, you'd have to wrestle with certain concepts.
Oh, look, I am nowhere near the pragmatic, what it would take. Yeah. I'm merely putting out the kernel of.
Right. I get it. It's a model.
It's a model.
Right.
So, but the thing is, a lot of people might say, well, there's no precedence for this. There is. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's on this podcast, we probably don't talk enough about the blockchain guys, what's going on in cryptography over there, consensus algorithms. And it's funny how those people are very comfortable mixing and matching cryptography with consensus algorithms and, hashing and wallets, which are PKI based, and consensus algorithms. They think of it all as a system. We think of those things as being quite separate. And I think to our detriment. And so therefore, I'm trying to pull in ideas that the cryptocurrency guys and ladies out there are doing. And it's like, what could be useful for us? And it's funny how nobody thinks about thermodynamic effects, but it's like, well, the reason why it's so good is because it's absolutely non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like you can't fake it.
Right.
It either exists or it doesn't. And therefore it can exist as essentially, whenever you say those words, that could be a receipt. Now, how you measure it, even how that would apply on the label on a tin.
So inside this model, some things that you would want to think about would be, one is that you might find yourself deleting the same secret repeatedly, either because it's getting reintroduced.
If that's the case, that's a signal of something, right?
Right. Or because it's spread out, right? It's in multiple places. So that's a thing that we would want to think about. I think the value of the secret, the level of specificity of the secret is like a valuable input as you think about this model.
Yeah. So one thing that is interesting is once something is leaked, then it's leaked.
Yeah.
What this is really all about is, did you, who I gave my clues to, do the deletion?
Right. So it's also on an individual relationship by relationship basis. That's another key thing. Right. So, right. Okay. Yeah, you're right. That cleans up the model a lot. Right. So I went to you and I applied for a loan and I gave you 17 clues. I want 17 receipts.
Right on.
If I have 17 receipts, my data might still be out there, but it didn't come from this.
And that's a big distinction.
Okay. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's just a thought, Tim.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.